She didn't just foul Caitlin Clark, she shoved her straight to the floor. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't disguised, it happened in plain sight, right in front of the entire arena. For a moment, everything stopped. The crowd erupted in disbelief. Benches stirred, and all eyes turned to the officials. Was it frustration? Was it targeted? No one had time to answer because Clark was already back on her feet. No stare down, no retaliation, just a quiet reset. But what happened next didn't need words. Because Caitlin Clark doesn't respond with attitude, she responds with buckets. And from that moment, the energy shifted. The first quarter didn't explode, it simmered, with heat building possession by possession. Natasha Howard set the tone for Indiana with a sharp baseline cut and a reverse layup that drew contact. She calmly knocked down both free throws. On the next play, Tina Charles read the defense, spotted a mismatch, and found Nelson Ododa for an easy finish. The Sun tested Indiana inside early, but Aliyah Boston began to shift the momentum. Diving for a loose ball, she sparked a fast break that Howard finished coast to coast. Boston followed up with a strong left-hand finish in the paint. Indiana looked confident, connected. Kelsey Mitchell broke down the defense, hitting Lexi Hall for a clean corner three. Then Caitlin Clark made her entrance, baiting her defender with a fake handoff, stepping back into space and burying a three in her face. It was electric. Tina Charles responded like a seasoned vet with soft hook shots and a lob finish. But Mitchell kept attacking, driving through contact, scoring in transition. Clark stayed poised. The Sun trapped her in the pick and roll. She slipped out and found Boston, who dumped it to Howard under the rim for a perfect finish. It was a masterclass in composure, execution, and rising to the moment. On the very next possession, Caitlin Clark spotted Aliyah Boston sealing deep in transition and launched a perfect pass from half court, leading to another easy two. The sequence wasn't just efficient, it was cold-blooded. The quarter looked like it would belong to Indiana until the final seconds when Jaylen Brown isolated on Clark, created just enough space, and hoisted a leaning, off-balance three that somehow dropped. It was a tough shot, a rare slip in Clark's otherwise locked-in defense. As the buzzer sounded, the Fever led 24-23. But this wasn't just a close game, it was a battle with something simmering beneath the surface, and that surface was about to crack. The second quarter opened in a deadlock. Neither team found rhythm early, with missed shots and intense defense defining the pace. Eventually, Kelsey Mitchell broke the silence. She stayed calm with the shot clock winding down, slipped through the lane with a smooth step through, and gently banked it in. That score shifted the energy. Boston followed with one of her signature moves, faking a handoff to Clark to freeze the defender before pulling up for a clean mid-range jumper. The mechanics were perfect, the timing impeccable, and suddenly, Indiana looked locked in. But the Sun weren't ready to fade. Nelson Ododa for her way into a strong putback over Howard, one of Connecticut's rare physical wins. Indiana quickly answered. Mitchell rejected his screen and exploded into the lane, absorbed contact, finished through it, and converted the and one, reminding everyone why she's one of the league's most dependable scorers. Then Connecticut made a familiar mistake. They trapped Clark at the top of the key. She didn't flinch. A slick crossover froze the big in space as she pulled up from deep, sinking the three with confidence. Her expression said it all. Out of a timeout, Indiana executed with clinical precision. Clark found Dantas cutting hard, and the pass hit her perfectly in stride for an easy finish. Seconds later, Clark found herself wide open. Beyond the arc, the defense sagged slightly as she buried another three. Then, she locked in defensively, reading a pass, jumping the lane, and leading the fast break, delivering a bounce pass to Mitchell for another bucket. On the very next possession, she picked off another pass, this time finishing a give and go, with Dantas on a reverse layup. Though the Sun managed to hold on momentarily, The momentum had clearly shifted down. It was Caitlin Clark who flipped the switch. Tina Charles made a wild save that led to a transition bucket. But it didn't matter much. Indiana had already seized control, heading into halftime with a 47-39 lead. The third quarter opened with the Sun fighting to claw back into the game. Marina Mabrey gave them a quick spark, cutting backdoor and finishing a smooth layup before the defense could react. It was a clean, purposeful play that gave Connecticut a sliver of hope, but Indiana responded instantly. Lexi Hall sprinted down the floor, set up on the wing, and buried a three in rhythm while the Sun scrambled. The Fever weren't just moving. The ball, they were flowing, and Aliyah Boston was orchestrating it all. She faked a handoff just enough to draw the help defender, then snapped a pass into the corner where Kelsey Mitchell was waiting. The shot left Mitchell's hands without hesitation and swished clean. Then came the highlight of the night. Caitlin Clark, mid-dribble, read the defense and spotted Natasha Howard sneaking behind the back line. Without even looking, Clark fired a no-look bullet straight into Howard's chest for an easy layup. The arena erupted. That energy shifted to silence moments later when Clark took a hard-hit one. That brought the crowd to its feet and forced the officials to stop play. After a review, 2 flagrant fouls were called, but no one was ejected. Clark remained calm, stepped to the line, and knocked down all 3 free throws. What might have shaken most players only sharpened her focus. Indiana wasn't just scoring now, they were feeding off a deeper energy. The Sun tried to stop the bleeding Sania. Rivers hit a soft corner 3 that bounced in, offering a brief lift, but the Fever came right back. Dantas established strong position in the post, kept her pivot tight, and dropped in a confident soft finish. Jaylen Brown gave Connecticut another spark, scrapping for a loose ball and converting a tough mid-range jumper under pressure. A gritty play built on hustle. Still, the final word in the third belonged to Mitchell. She sized up her defender, rejected a screen, and calmly stepped back near the elbow to sink a smooth jumper, slamming the door on any late quarter momentum. As the buzzer sounded, Indiana held a commanding 68-50 to lead heading into the final frame. With 10 minutes left, the Sun came out swinging. Sania Rivers drew defenders at the top of the key before slipping a sharp pass to Jaylen Brown, who cut hard from the wing and finished cleanly at the rim. It was a well-executed play that briefly breathed life into Connecticut, but the Fever never blinked on the next possession. Dantas read the defense perfectly, slipped out of a screen, set her feet, and calmly drilled a three-pointer, snuffing out the Suns' momentum once again. At the top of the arc, Indiana's spacing was textbook, and their response was immediate. Sania Rivers continued to flash her potential, creating space and calmly knocking down a mid-range jumper. With smooth mechanics composed beyond her years, it's clear the Sun are building something around. Soon after, a defensive lapse from Indiana left Jaylen Brown wide open on the perimeter, and she capitalized with a quick release 3 that trimmed the deficit to 10. The crowd stirred, sensing the window was still open, but just as quickly, Indiana slammed it shut. Sophie Cunningham drove hard into the paint, absorbed contact, and finished with a composed layup. She didn't need to say anything, her play spoke volumes. Moments later, after a broken sequence and a loose ball scramble, Aliyah Boston found herself unguarded beyond the arc and coolly buried a 3, pushing the lead back up. Then came Caitlin Clark's closing act. Taking command off a high ball screen, she split to defenders with a sharp cut and sank a smooth jumper just inside the arc. But the next moment was unforgettable. Isolated on the wing, she took a handoff, crossed between her legs, and pulled up from deep and phased by a defender who had been in her space all game. The shot soared, dropped, and sent the arena into a frenzy. The Sun executed a clean back screen to free Nelson Ododa for a layup, but the game had already slipped too far. On the next possession, they lost track of Dantas again, and she made them pay with her second three of the quarter. By the final buzzer, Indiana had transformed a close battle into an 88-71 statement win. They tried everything to wear Clark down, crowding her, leaning into her, pushing the limits of physical play, hoping to disrupt her rhythm. But Caitlin Clark never flinched. She didn't complain. She didn't react emotionally. She simply responded the only way she knows, by taking over. The more pressure they applied, the sharper she became. And by the end, it wasn't Clark who broke, it was the defenders who tried to stop her. They wanted her to fold. Instead, she walked away, looking like they never had a chance.